Hello and welcome to episode 28 of BM by BM. I'm Bailey and
I'm Maxie. Welcome to the show.
welcome. And in this episode, we will be discussing the FX series Devs.
Devs, also known as something else, but we couldn't tell you or it would give away the end of the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Does I don't remember the actor's name, but is Ron
Nick
Swan?
Offerman?
Yeah, thank you, Nick Offerman. Does does Ron Swanson talk in that same tone of voice? Because that whole just like almost like he's stoned, but
Yes.
it's not. But he is in this like chill place
Yes.
all the time.
It's like the dude Ron Swanson.
Yes. So Devs is a short, 8 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't know. It's a mini series, maybe. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, I don't think they're going to make a continuation or another season of it.
So it's a obviously sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
story. In the story, so it's high tech. There's a tech company in San Francisco, and this company, so it's about the devs team, the developmental team,
Mm-hmm.
and the team is working on what do they call it? A projection, basic.
Yeah, it's a quantum computer.
Quantum computer that they are seeking to be able to produce a projection of any point in time in human history. One of the first one is you see Jesus on the cross. Kind of the idea is if you provide enough data, you can predict anything, including going backwards, and you can. So it's not. It presents as essentially a movie, a video of whatever, but it's not that. It's a projection. So a super powerful machine.
It's very interesting. And one of the main underlying ideas of this series is cause and effect and determinism. Reasons why Forrest, who is played by Nick Offerman, he's the head of Amaya, the tech company. I think one of the reasons why he's so chill is because he's just like, whatever happens, happens. It will all be okay. And he's just accepted fate as it will happen. I don't know.
And it appears that some part of that is because he has experienced such a catastrophic loss, the death of his wife and very young daughter, which he witnessed, that what could possibly be worse than that? So I move through life completely unperturbed by what might be, because nothing can happen to me that's worse than what has already happened to me. Ish, I think. So, yeah, I go a little bit more. I don't know if there's more of if we can really do much more of the plot without starting to give things away. There is a dark side of the show. There's a head of security slash henchman that
Kenton.
Yes, who
bad dude
kills for the boss man, and the boss man knows that this happens. Killing is an acceptable part of moving forward in the work at hand. But yeah, this idea of determinism, Forrest, his entire work, including the work of the technical work, the work of the quantum computer, is that all all of life is deterministic. There's a great scene, I will say, a very cerebral scene in which
Katie
explains the entire concept of the machine, and she says everything, so nothing in life is random. Everything it happens for a reason, and she challenges. I'm sorry, blanking on names.
Forrest.
No, she was
Lily.
She was telling Lily, who is the protagonist of the movie. I should have known that one name. Name something that is random, and she tries to name several things. Like, no, I didn't say there were a good reason, but everything happens for a reason. I like you said, cause and effect. So this view of, if you keep going back and back, everything happens for a reason. So if you can determine the reason, you can, as was said in another scene, everything unpacked and repacked. Very interesting. Could bring you right over into, and they talked about the illusion of free will, as opposed to, they did not call it predestination. They called it something much more cold and scientific.
Would you say that's what determinism is? Or like something has already been determined?
Predestination?
Yes.
Well, I honestly don't know if I know it. If I have not studied predestination enough to know if it is as specific as what they were saying with determinism. They're saying everyone, he calls them, they're on tram rails. Like, you do not have a choice. You don't really have any choices. That everything, you have the illusion of choice, but everything you do and are doing happens for a reason, and you are the author of those reasons, or at least the majority of them. Therefore, so I think predestination is not maybe so specific. Like, there's still choice within I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I agree.
Predestination is more general. Like, we got the final score down, but
true. But we don't know how we get there necessarily.
Right.
Are you continuing to process? Okay. So one of the other things that is brought up in this series, which has been brought up in other series before, is almost like an alternate timeline. Because of choices that you can make, because of things that have already been determined, there's a scene with the professor who talks about how, like, time is kind of like a tree with branches, and different things can happen in different timelines. And I just keep thinking of the series Community. Have you ever seen that? There's an episode where they're playing a game. Do you remember what game they're playing?
They're rolling dice to decide who work to get pizza.
They're rolling a dice. Is it like an 8-sided dice?
I think they're playing
Dungeons and Dragons or something. But they're rolling dice to see who will answer the door to pick up the pizza. And so every time the dice rolls in the episode, it branches off into what would happen if that person got the door and how it would be different. So I think it's very interesting to think of this alternate universe. And there were some series that mentioned it. Even the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow, which you don't even think about, where she like gets on the train right before the doors close, or the metro. But it's interesting to think what would happen if, like, I sped through a red light versus slowing down when it's yellow, or if I order something today instead of tomorrow, or I don't know. It's interesting to think about the alternate time lines that could have happened within one universe.
Yeah, that is. But yeah, and I actually had this almost like this little glimpse into it at one point, because there are several episodes here where it kind of visualizes that branching just of like one thing. And I was thinking, I don't think I've seen a movie like this, but you could do a scene in a show or a movie or something where there's this event that happens. I don't know, a car wreck or even someone scared, honking a horn and scaring something, and what the image I had in my head is showing all the little tiny decisions made by someone like in a gas station I don't know why it's a lonely road in my imagination, and then someone way down the highway, and then the micro decisions they're making, and then all the decisions this other person is making that leads up to this encounter, this near miss, this whatever it is, and then of course times several billion, and then you have all the things that affect decisions, like inanimate objects or other living things impacting my decisions. And I think that complexity is called the world or life. But yeah, it's really interesting to pull that thread and see if it would unravel. What does that even look like?
I did like the way that they visualized it. It's kind of like almost like when something on the desktop would lag and you could like drag it around and create multiple boxes. It was kind of like that.
Yeah, I like it. So another sub-thread was Lily at the beginning. Lily was the girlfriend of a guy that turns out to have been
Sergey,
who was a industrial, not industrial. He's a spy. Is that the right word? Not industrial. Anyway, whatever.
I know what you're saying, but I cannot think of the word.
It's some of the source code of devs. So that whole thing and his contact, and she met his contact, and then I have to say without trying maybe spoiling too much. Also, there's another character, the bum that sleeps outside their apartment. So I have to say, literally laugh out loud, loved scenes was when, so good Lord, help me with names. Her former boyfriend,
Jamie,
was waiting outside the apartment. So this bum was there, and he was kept asking him questions, and he left. And he says, Jamie said to him, if I give you $20, will you never speak to me again? He's like, okay. And so he gave him the money, and he's like, oh man, this is the best deal I have in his life. And then he froze and he said, I already broke our deal. He's like, this is the kind of unprofessional behavior that led me to a life on the street. And I'm like, that is, I did not expect that kind of dialogue from a guy who's there ranging cigarettes he picked up in the by height order. So yeah,
he was definitely some comic relief.
He was. Oh, and then he was dancing, almost belly dancing to the guy playing guitar in the park, and I'm like, that guy's a saint for not freaking out on him. That's a good one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I liked him. I know. Out of all of the characters, I feel like I really identified and liked the bum the best. Like every other one, you could see negative characteristics of their personality, and I don't know.
All right, I got another piece. There's a senator that's snooping around, is interested in what the machine does, what is happening there. One thing I found very interesting, unlike many other dystopian or blue sci-fi or big tech movies, Forrest is completely uninterested in attempting to manipulate the world at large. Like he has an entire huge tech company and people doing work. And he is very rich, but he lives in a very modest home, drives a beater, and they aren't over there attempting to manipulate, the course of human history. So it's interesting, and in fact, it's because he has this sort of singular obsession. But it's
Yes.
very trippy, very like, especially near the end, things happen. It gets a little weird, or a little extra weird, as the ends of these stories tend to be. But it's not like, oh no, we must save the universe from the tech giant who is attempting to, so that
Right.
seemed to me like someone has cracked the code of the machine. They have built the machine, and they really don't have any use for humanity. They don't need to control, or have any desire to control humanity with it.
And he is very singularly driven with one end game,
Yeah.
when he could do so much more.
Yeah. Interesting. It's good. I have to say, this was a really good one.
Good.
This whole concept of being so totally consumed with a singular passion, pursuing. Now, he did, Forrest, in his obsession, created this uber powerful machine that he's not going to be able to control. In the end, something's going to happen, as always does. It's interesting that whole thread of beware the Pandora's box, basically.
Mm-hmm.
That thread is still there, but it's interesting how they almost like they were able to create a great deal of suspense and investment in the story,
Mm-hmm.
without having it to make it like saving the world. It was just this, let's save, or let's figure out what happens to this very small cast of characters.
Mm-hmm.
So well done.
Mm.
True.
So the director and I believe writer of the series, Alex Garland, also wrote and directed Ex Machina. Sorry, I don't speak Latin. And Annihilation, which is another alien movie, where they are exploring an area that has been inhabited by aliens. Ex Machina has an AI creation interacting with two men. So this director has a interest in technology, interest in sci-fi, but I think all of his films stink. But this series was just something that's already happening. Quantum computing exists, and the computers can process things so much more quickly than a regular person could, or even a regular computer. It's just crazy to think that these things could be happening. And they probably are. So.
There's one or two things I'm doing this week that, if they're so much more powerful than a computer, I would be happy to get those things done more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I would give it back, or whatever. They could send it to me in a spreadsheet. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's some specific tasks working on. Well, good call on this. I would say this is definitely a recommend for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and now, audience, you can watch all episodes at once. When we originally watched it, they were releasing episodes by week. So, yes, there you go.
Okay, this brings us to the end of our long prologue. We have successfully made it through, what is it, 28?
28.
28. This is almost like this show needs to make serious decisions about its life and settle down.
It's time to pay off that student loan debt.
Right. Start making it's considering your career here. So as we've announced, we're going to transition into Monsters and Aliens.
Yes.
So that's coming up next. But we also have a little announcement. We're going to untether from a regular schedule, at least for a little bit. I don't know if you guys out there know, we're both educators, and the new school year is upon us. And so we're still going to be doing shows, but
under his eye.
May the Lord open. We don't know the schools. They'll open the schools, of course, is what I meant. Anyway, we will be doing shows, but we don't promise when we will do them. But when we do, we'll tell you. So consider kind of like a pop-up show. Hey, one night only. Next episode.
Remember when people used to go places and it would be like happen sporadically? It'll be like that, but on YouTube.
Totally. So anyway, congratulations to us.
Yes.
The Glass Tube partner. Congrats on making it through our 28 episodes. Random tweet 4 months ago would lead us here. Was it 3? Here we are.
Time is relative.
It absolutely is.
Oh my gosh.
We're sad to announce we've not been nominated for any, what are we eligible for? Nothing. That's probably why we haven't been nominated. But we sure do like this stuff. So
we do.
We'll be back.
Yes. Stay safe out there. Make good choices. The whole idea of debts. Make good choices.
That's it. Bye.